Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today's topic is going to be talking about why net worth explodes after 100,000. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen YouTube videos and everything kind of talking about this concept already. It's a very well-known personal finance topic, but if you haven't already, the main reason behind this is compound interest. See, the thing is, whenever you earn money, the more capital you have, the more proportionate the returns you're going to get. So for example, if you invest $10 into the stock market, you'll get maybe like a $1 return at the very end of the year, assuming a 10% growth rate, right? I can argue that, that amount of money is pretty negligible, right? $100 invested, you'll probably get up to $10 in return. And that's something that people can work for in like an hour or so at, a minimum wage job. You keep scaling up, and like, let's say now we're talking about $100,000 invested. Now that 10% return is going to turn into $10,000, and that basically is passive, right? You don't have to do that much. You just have to keep the money in the stock market, and it's going to give you $10,000 every single year. And that's arguably for most people a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months of, living expenses or their salary as well. So capital is one of the main reasons why it is so important to kind of invest early. So this is actually the reason why it's so hard to build up wealth, especially from the very beginning stages, because you don't have compound interest necessarily working for you, right? Your portfolio size is not big enough that these your capital investments are going to be proportional in terms of your return. When you're just starting out, you're contributing your hard-earned money from your day job or whatever you're doing, and you're seeing only 10% returns on maybe a couple $1,000s, which, it's pretty good, but it's not scaled as much. So Charlie Munger has a quote that goes, "The first $100,000 is a bitch. I don't care how you get there. You just have to get there as soon as possible." Now that might not be word for word, but the principle behind it is just saying that you have to get to the point where you have enough capital. That way it's way easier to scale your money in the future. And so let's think about it from the journey from, let's say, $0 net worth to $1 million net worth. Assuming you invest around $10,000 a year at a 7% return, $100,000 is probably going to take you around 7.8 years to get to, right? So for most people, this is going to be a long time. The wealth building journey is the absolute hardest at the very beginning because of this, one concept that we talked about with your capital not being able, like, scalable at this point. And so now let's take it to the next step. From 100 to 200,000, it actually takes only 5.1 years. So that's around a 2-year decrease between getting from 0 to 100 to 100 to 200. Now, if you fast forward to 300K, that's going to take you 3.78 years, and then 400K is going to be around 3 years flat. And so you can see that every single step of the way, it takes less time to hit the next 100,000 milestone because now you have capital working for you, right? That 200,000, like for example, if you hit that 200,000 mark and you're generating 10% return, that means every single year you're making $20,000 passively, which means you technically only need to invest 80,000 to get to that. At 900,000, you're basically at 1 million already because assuming a 10% return, you're generating $90,000 in that 1 year, which will get you to that 1 million mark so much faster. And so if we take the entire frame from 0 to $1 million and the time frame it takes every 100,000, 1 million using the estimates that we kind of outlined at 10,000 a year at a 7% return will take you around 30 years to get to, 31 if you want to round up. So we already talked about all the potential time that it might take to get to that amount, right? But arguably speaking, on the bright side, the first $100,000 that means you're 25% of the way to 1 million, assuming you're investing at the same rate, right? And arguably speaking, when you grow older and you're like a few years more into your career, your earning potential is going to go up as well. So these are relatively conservative assumptions, especially 10,000 a year. Honestly speaking, I feel like most people, especially with strong budgeting, can invest a lot more than that. And generally speaking, the stock market returns around 10%. This year was around 20%. So just think about those factors when it comes into consideration. Now, the next thing that you might be wondering is, how do I get to this number faster, right? So there's mainly two strategies. The first one is to increase your earning potential, and then the second one is to reduce your costs. So short term, reducing your costs is the easy and most effective way to do it. You just cancel your subscriptions, you try to spend less money, right? You have to do some budgeting, obviously. And this is going to help reduce your monthly expenses overall, which would then be able to be put into your retirement accounts or invested into the stock market, right? The more long-term solution is going to be actually to increase your earning potential. And so this is going to be developing skills, continuously job hopping every 2 to 3 years for maybe a 15 to 20% pay rise, and kind of just doing everything required to be able to increase your earning power, right? The job market is dictated by how hard you are to replace, not how much potential you have, right? And so when you are looking to apply for different jobs, you need to find what your competitive advantage is and be able to capitalize on that. The next stage you might do outside of potentially a 9 to 5 is start your own business. Typically, owning some part of equity in a company, especially one that you're building up and is generating strong cash flow, is going to be one of the biggest contributors towards your net worth because you could sell that business maybe 2, 3 years down the line. Let's say with your current job, right? You're making a specific amount of money, but the thing is, it's not leverageable because the amount of time that you're putting in doesn't necessarily correlate to the output. You're going to still be making the same salary every single year. Whereas, for example, a salesperson, yes, it's performance based, but that means there's more upside, right? A good salesperson who sells twice as much will make twice as much as well, right? So think about that in terms of like leverage with your business, because once you start a business, then it's not your earning potential is not limited by the amount of hours you work in a day. And honestly, there's only 24 hours, so you're already limited there. Your earning potential is then based off of how much value you could provide, which is your competitive advantage or what makes you different or unique, and irreplaceable, as I was kind of describing. So those are kind of the two ways that you could increase your earnings as fast as possible and decrease your expenses. Um, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that this whole process is a journey. By no means is this something that you could do overnight, right? We already talked about the fact that it takes maybe 30 years to save up to your first 1 million, right? But the thing is, $1 million is made up of 1 million $1 bills. So every single tiny step that you're taking is going to contribute to this in the future. And one of the things that I actually learned recently was every dollar that you invest when you're around 18 to 20 is actually going to be $85, adjusted for inflation, by the way, when you are 65 and you're at your retirement age. So think about that. Every single dollar that you invest now is worth potentially $60 to $80, that like times like that much more times in the future, right? So there is a part of delayed gratification in things that you have to do in order to be able to like achieve these milestones, because there's a balance between how much you should be spending now, how much you should, be traveling, enjoying life, doing all the things that require money compared to how much you should be saving. So that's honestly a personal preference. It depends person to person. But I hope this video was helpful. There's a lot of different things that I covered, and good luck on your wealth creation journey. Please like and subscribe, follow for more, whatever they say nowadays, and we'll keep posting more content.